Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be discussing about ethics and professional practices. We have decided to choose the second case study, and today I'm going to be joined by my classmates Simran, Manpreet, Manisha, and I. We're going to be outlining the facts of the case. We're going to be explaining the relevant ethical issues relating to the case. What are the multiple or the dual roles, boundaries, the duty of care, requirements, the mandatory reporting requirements, and demonstrating a clear ethical decision-making processes, summarizing the possible outcomes of the case. And we're just gonna begin with the first slide. So I am a youth worker in an institution for social care. The client, George, is 18 years old and he's suffering from mental health and substance issues. I have developed a great relationship with George, and George is becoming more suspicious of the staff as well as other customers in the residential areas. In this regard of this case study, we can see George he's suffering with mental health issues and he's suffering through substance abuse. And he's also having hallucination, which makes him think that the care staff that are around him are like they're mistreating him or making him feel a type of way. So because he's having some substance abuse, he's having withdrawal effects. And these withdrawal effects can affect his mental health issues, and it can get him distracted by his surroundings as well. George has admitted that he's planning to have revenge on the clients and the colleagues at the same time. George admits to having taken his medication, but not regularly, and has been hearing loud voices. The client has requested confidentiality and to keep information private. So it's evident that George wants to take revenge on the other staff, and this may lead to conflict in the house and result to underperformance in the house as well. Therefore, it's very important that we treat George with utmost consideration, care in everything, respecting everything that we do for George. It's spot on. So he doesn't have these ideas in his mind that we are after him, this other stuff are after him. On the other slide, we're going to talk about confidentiality. Confidentiality to me is whereby a client tells me something that I have to put it as a secret. George may come to me and tell me this and this and tells me, don't tell anyone else. So that's going to be between me and George. So clients have the right to believe that communication will be conducted within the confines of the conjugal relationship. All clients have the right of privacy and confidentiality. The moral of the duty and a legal requirements. It is confidentiality. It's meant to be kept. Whatever George tells me, it's between me and George, and I'm not meant to share this information to other person. Let's say in case where George confides in me and tells me that he's going to harm himself or harm other person, it's my duty of care to say this to my supervisor or someone else to let them know what George is telling me. And the next slide, we're going to be talking about the relevant laws. As a case worker or a youth worker, we require to follow these laws. These laws are the ACWA Practices Guidelines, the ACWA Code of Ethics, and the federal state's laws related to the privacy. And we're just going to go into more details as what the ACWA Practice Guidelines are. So the ACWA Practice Guidelines, we have the ACWA as part of the Guideline 2.1. The service provided to the client must be relevant and suitable for the case. So whatever we're serving to George, it has to be relevant, and whatever we're providing has to be relevant to his case, whatever his needs are, whatever he's going through, we have to. As for the Guideline 1.3, I can take advice from supervisors in case a need arises. As George may confide in me that he feels threatened, he may feel this way. It's my responsibility to tell my other staff that George is feeling this type of way. Can we try to make him feel more priority. Let's try to make him not have these ideas in his mind. As per guideline 4.1, I will be required to report if the client intended to do something illegal. If he does something illegal, he wants to harm himself or other people, it's my responsibility to let my supervisor know, the higher authorities, what George is confiding in me. As per guideline 3.7, I have to provide confidentiality and privacy to the client according to the Australian Community Workers Association 2021. And I'll pass my next colleague, my next classmate, to continue on with the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. So, when is it okay to, just a second. When is it okay to breach the confidentiality? As Stephanie mentioned in previous slides, that confidentiality is something where we have to keep our communication within the caseworker and the client. So it's to maintain their professional boundaries. And sometimes it is okay to breach the confidentiality when there are some particular reasons. For example, when there is a danger present to the person or to the client, or there is a terrorism, or there is a danger present to the children, money laundering, or drug trafficking. So in this case, there is a danger that George might cause harm to the colleague because he confessed to me, and like he said that he has plans to take revenge to the caseworker and to the clients and to the colleagues as well. So there is a possibility that he cause harm to the other person. So in this case, I can breach the confidentiality to my supervisor or to other caseworker, because he also said that he has not taken any kind of medication. So it is possible that he caused harm to the other person. And the consequences of breaching confidentiality. So whenever we breach the confidentiality, there should be a particular reason to breach it, but sometimes there are some consequences that a caseworker or the other person has to face it. So anyone who violates confidentiality is at a risk of corrective action all the way to the termination of work. Sometimes the reason for breaching the confidentiality is not strong enough, and it leads to the termination of work for the caseworker, which might cause harm to them. And it is also included in the AQUA practice guidelines that community worker must maintain confidentiality as per Australian Community Worker Association 2021. So as a caseworker, it is our duty to maintain the confidentiality unless there are some particular reason where there is a harm present to the person. So it is totally fine to breach the confidentiality in those areas. So then duty of care. So duty of care is particularly a legal requirement, or that is required by a law to protect people against injury when we can see there is a danger present to the other person that could be reasonably foreseen. Duty of care exists when there is a need to be responsible or careful when injury is foreseeable. So in this case study second, duty of care exists and duty of care present because we can see there is a danger present to the colleague and to the client, as George disclosed that himself. So here it is our duty as a caseworker to protect other people's, like our clients, colleagues, and the caseworker from the injury when we can see the harm is foreseeable. When is duty of care breached? When other person, or we can see when George is acting in a way that is unreasonable or has acted in a manner that falls below what is expected from George, they are considered to have violated their obligation of care. So we can say the George, he is not taking any kind of medication. He's behaving rude with the clients, with the caseworker. So in this way, he is breaching a duty of care. He is acting in a manner where he should not act like that, or he is behaving in a manner where he should not behave like that. So in this way, he is breaching a duty of care. And as a caseworker, it is our duty to maintain that duty of care in that area. So responsibility to colleagues. As per Aqua Code of Ethics, the community worker must share professional expertise with the colleague. So, as a community worker, it is a duty to maintain a professional and personal boundaries with all the colleagues and the clients. We have to maintain that professional relationship with everyone. We should not disclose any kind of information, whether it's personal or professional. Respect the capabilities and expertise of your colleague, which include volunteers. Discuss any unlawful behavior that was detected by a colleague, directed directly by the colleague. So we have to discuss if we notice any unkind of like any unlawful behavior. For example, George, um, we are noticing that his behavior is not good enough with the colleague and with the clients. He is rude, he is arrogant with them, and he is planning to take revenge on them. He is not taking any kind of medication. So these are the behavior that we have to discuss with our supervisor, and these are the unlawful behavior. Acknowledge and be aware of all rights, protection, and rights provided by the law. So, as a community worker or as a case worker, it is a duty that we are aware of all the rights, we have aware of all the protections and the rights that are provided by the law. For example, the duty of care. So, it is a legal requirement. It is law that is provided from the it is like a requirement that is provided by the law. So it is our duty to be acknowledge that duty of care, to be aware of that duty of care, and to be aware that what might it cause if we breach duty of care and how to maintain it. So we have to acknowledge all these rights, and we have to acknowledge all these rights, including all colleagues, and we have to maintain confidentiality and privacy unless there is a very strong reason to breach it. In the like, for example, in case studies second, um, as along with workplace safety as well as anti-discrimination and health law as per Australian Community Worker Association 2021. Now I'll pass on to Manisha from the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Simran. The my one is a responsibility to client. As a client responsibility, he should provide all the illness. Like if like George is facing mental health problem, he should disclose everything in the front of a caseworker. So the caseworker help to overcome with that. And as a client, as a care worker, we should explain all the rights and the responsibility to client so he use them better. So as per Aqua Code of Ethics, the community worker must will treat all information about clients as private unless the with the approval of the client referrals are required being made. We shouldn't be disclose any of private information about the client until we don't get any approval from the client. If necessary, seek experts and consultation of advice or concentration or any other advice. Obliged to show respect to client and the ensure protect and respect the rights and the self-determinations. We should respect the clients, like we should protect and respect ourselves and the other colleagues and the client as well. The next one. Responsibility to the clients. While using certain power and utilizing information in exercising certain powers and using information is countable to the clients to make sure that they are aware of their rights, are able to make decisions, and are able to access information about themselves, enhance their abilities and knowledge to benefit to the customer. In this point, they are saying that George should be able to understand their rights and the responsibilities so he can make the decisions. So he can able to make the decisions. And as a client, he should respect all the colleagues, staff, and the other residents. So he shouldn't be harmed to other residents, and disclose he should be disclosed that he is not taking the medication so long. So if we tell everything to caseworker, caseworker help to give them a more benefits or the better medications. And the next one, participation. The judge should be participate in all the activities and attending all the appointments. Ethical problem. The ethical problem situation that occurs as a result of a moral conflict that should be addressed. As an ethical problem in a case, worker is required to keep confidentiality and has responsibility towards client. Case workers also responsibility towards colleague as like an aggregate measurements to discourage, prevent, expose, and correct and unethical colleagues. And as a care worker, as we should respect to our colleagues' decisions and prevent accurate and fair decisions. The primary ethical dilemma here is to keep confidentiality without any harming cause to colleagues. Decision-making process. I know that I am a young worker. I must have a clear understanding of legal obligations to protect information, except when I am required. As a care worker, I should be know my legal obligations that help to prevent the judge to consent to share it. There is a possibility of injury to a young person or other. This is a one of the reason I need to aware of it, as some people could get injured. I should know the all the legal obligation, right, responsibility, so that I help as a care worker. As a care worker, I help to the other residents and to protect the George as well, because he's tried to injure to everyone because he's suffering from a mental health. Speaking to a client on my own is risky as they not be in a best judgment and may attack me. We shouldn't be talked to George directly because he's facing a mental illness. Maybe he will harm to case worker, and that will be a make a cause, and we should take someone with us to when we are going to talk to George. Plan of action. I will inform my supervisor that I have observed him from a past few weeks. Uh, as I am saying that George is getting aggressive on the other residents, so I should disclose this in front of supervisor that from the last few weeks I am observing to George, he is getting aggressive and harming to others. So a supervisor will help me to come out with the George situation. That George has displayed some signs of the uneasy, the signs that he's like mental health and he's facing a mental illness. The supervisor will ask him questions that are guiding and will not be disclosed what I have told them about things he said to me. Whatever I said to supervisor, he shouldn't be disclosed in front of George. If it is disclosed in front of George, so the client shouldn't be trust on a case worker. So it is important that supervisor should be hide everything whatever case worker told to supervisor about the George. It is important to get George to trust me, particularly if he is contemplating something similar to this. If I have ever have to, I will be a vigilant and make sure he's taking the medicine. From the future, I will keep eye on the George and make sure that he is taking his all medications. Then pass next slide to Manpreet.
Sorry. Confidentiality is a key to providing an uninvolved environment within the counseling room, but confidentiality isn't the same as secrecy. It is always subject to exceptions and restriction, which will differ across countries due to distinct legal jurisdiction, according to the Butler 1986. So confidentiality isn't the same like secrecy. Secrecy is something which needs to be hid, but confidentiality is totally different. Like it is always with some restriction. For example, here is the George case. So in George case, we cannot keep the things secret because in that case he might give harm to the surrounding people or maybe to himself, which is not fair enough. So as a caseworker, it is always good to share something maybe with the supervisor or any of the management team, so that we can make some plans and we can provide some actions in order to recover the client like George. Next one. So the next possible outcomes may be, as per the person-centered theory, counselor believe that every person is good at birth, or maybe ethically neutral. So by birth, like every person is good, but situation changed, and like a person changed with some of the exceptions. So as a counselor of this type, seek to assist clients in accepting their true self and to embrace their authentic organismic self and rely on their internal source of self evaluation. So as a counselor, we must always pay attention that client, in whatever way they are, should accept their true self, and they can bring some changes where required. By making sure the confidentiality of George, I can gain his trust and make him in his recovery. By gaining his trust, I can help him in recover. I can provide him some solutions. And for this, it is very important that I should gain his trust by keeping his things secret. But as I told before, it's always, there should be always some restrictions where I can keep confidentiality and where I can breach them. Meanwhile, this course of action will also help in minimizing danger to my colleagues. By pursuing this, I can also make sure that I can reduce the danger, the hazard to my other colleagues. Next one. In conclusion, as a care worker, as a counselor, it is my duty to provide George with all the help that he needs. So as a case worker, like I'm handling, if in case I'm handling the George case, so this is my first and foremost duty is to keep all his needs as a priority, whilst also minimizing the threat to people around me and not practicing active negligence by performing my duty of care. In other terms, I can also be aware that I can minimize the danger to the people around me, and also by not giving any sort of negligence to my duty of care, as per the Australian Community Worker Association 2021. The next one. So below are the references, which is a link to the presentation given by all four of us. So this is the sources from where we picked our slides. So the minutes of meeting is like the meeting type and discussion, like whatever the discussion we made on this presentation. Division of work, like we all four divided our work, and the presentation, the goal, discuss regarding update on presentation and make recording, agenda, finalizing presentation, discussing regarding video plans, giving a mock presentation, next steps, record presentation. So again, the minutes of meeting is meeting type, discussion, presentation, goal, updating presentation as per the feedback received, agenda, adding minutes of meeting to slides, discussing regarding video plan, giving mock presentation, record updated presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.